Hey guys, today's story is the Tale of Weaboo Jones. Oh boy, never once did I actually think that I would post a story on here. But I suppose that there really is no way around it, since the original comment thread on iFunny was requested to be posted here. Back in my days, before I became a permanent DM, I had joined a group of my close friends and theirs. My character was an elven warlock / ranger hybrid who had been kidnapped at birth and raised in the Feywilds, with him never having any memories relating to being in the material plane. This gave him a very new person on the block vibe that allowed both him and I to experience the world and its lore at the same time, which is something that I would recommend that everyone does at least one time. Anyways, my character was sent through a hallway-looking portal to the material plane, and he ran into the group that I was going to be playing with. We had the wizard character, who was mostly focused on utility spells and avoiding combat at all costs, who also inspired me to make a character who preferred that type of path. Then we had a barbarian, a smash and destroy everything kind of guy. Fun to play with because he made the combat fun and tried to make everyone enjoy it with him. Then we had a man that I shall be referring to as Weaboo Jones. And yes, he smelled as bad as he sounded. Weaboo Jones had a min-maxed rogue character that he had homebrewed a subclass for, which was a samurai / ninja build. He was a tabaxi. However, Jones specifically stated that the only cat features they had were a tail, ears, whiskers, and claws, which basically meant that he was playing a cat girl. I would just like to point out as well that the DM was new, and this was his first group and wasn't really used to having all that power. Jones had also lied to the DM, saying that the subclass wasn't overpowered, and that in play it would be obvious that it was as such. However, to be put quite frankly, it was more broken than my family. He could re-roll any hits that he didn't hit, and could perform a glancing blow that would cause half damage if he got their AC, or got a roll up to 2 below the AC. He also had above average stats, with charisma being 20 and dexterity being 19, which I found extremely odd considering the typical tabaxi racial bonuses.
Well, you see, since she's more human-like, I asked the DM if I could have a charisma boost 2 and a dex boost 1, and he said it was fine,
was the excuse I got. And honestly, I knew that he was abusing the DM's kindness before I even played with him. He also had samurai armor that gave him a crazy AC for a 2nd level, while not restricting his agility and stealth. Anyways, I was introduced to the group, and Jones decided to stay back while the rest of the group continued their search of the castle. Jones then decided that he would attempt to seduce Archibor, which was my elf, while everyone else was away. Archibor very quickly declined, politely. Then, as I said to the DM that I wished to catch up with the other players, Jones very quickly spoke before the DM had the chance to respond.
I wish to perform a stealth attack the moment Archibor has his back turned,
thus leading to the group looking at him in shock, with me having the same look on my face. The DM said for him to roll stealth, to see if he could do it, and Jones said that because I turned my back, stealth was an unnecessary roll, and all he had to do was roll to hit. He rolled to hit, which, shockingly, ended up being a 23, well above my level 2's leather armor. He used his quarterstaff to deal 14 damage to my warlock / ranger, who only had 12 health, instantly rendering me unconscious. Luckily, I didn't have to make death rolls since it was a bludgeoning type weapon, but the entire group was still looking at him in shock. With a smile on his face, Jones said,
"Huh, that was easy,"
and then called out for the rest of the group, telling them that I had attacked them. They tied Archibor up and then questioned him when he woke up, while believing me more due to the fact that nobody wanted to actually punish me in character for something so stupid. They then untied me, and then we made our way from the castle to the local inn to spend the night, so we could discuss what to do with me. Due to the rest of the group deciding to get drunk and have fun, Archibor felt more comfortable being away from them, especially with what had happened. A quick note on Archibor. As he was an elf raised in the Feywilds, he had spent most of his life away from temptations such as lust and alcohol, and other things as such, so he was just living as he always had been. His archfey had sent him to the material plane to perform the necessary mission, and to return once it was finished, leading to him not wanting to really associate, especially if he was headed back to the Feywilds after. He also spoke constantly with his patron, asking for her guidance and help in his time of need, which she usually did what she could to aid him when he was in need. So he left the tavern and began speaking with the archfey, and once the conversation switched to Archibor's interaction with Jones, he interrupted the DM mid-conversation.
Would I hear this?
He's outside.
My character doesn't trust Archibor. It's only logical that she used her superior stealth to keep watch on him.
To which the DM allowed. All of his stealth checks never went below 18, which, honestly, to this day, I can't tell if it was luck or just weighted dice. And during this conversation, Jones heard the Archfey speak and say that Archibor's purity was more important than his mission, saying that he mustn't be tainted even if the mission required it. Jones then slunk back into the inn, and I told the DM that I wanted to return to the group after that. But before the DM could even say anything, Jones said that he walked up to Archibor and initiated conversation. However, at this very moment, Weaboo Jones had gotten a notification that his pizza from Domino's was ready for pickup. So he left, and the group all spoke to the DM about what had happened. And he said that he had noticed, but not to worry, which caused all of us to become even more unhappy and upset for this session. Having returned after that, Jones spoke with a mouthful of pizza to Archibor, disgusting me even more when it came to this mucus ball.
Archibor, I fancy you and wish to have sex with you.
Which kinda thrust the situation onto my elf. However, he was just told to not do any of that. And upon refusing his disgusting advances, he then said that he wished to roll to seduce me, which ended up being high. Shocker. The DM was willing to take my answer of my character would not be interested, to the point that nobody except for the Archfey could convince him otherwise, because that's just how he was. This was then followed by 10 minutes of Jones asking to roll to seduce, and quite literally nothing else during that time. Finally, after 10 minutes, the entire group was basically ready to just end it right there and leave since we weren't having any fun. And due to this being my first session, I didn't want to end it on a sour note, so I relented after 10 minutes and told him, fine. I ended up going outside to get away from the group, as I was not only angry, but I was also uncomfortable to the point of me being unable to be near Weaboo Jones. After standing outside and calming down, I came back and the DM asked Jones to roll a D100 for seemingly no reason. Upon resuming the game, the DM spoke up and said that while having sex with Archibor, Jones received fantasy aids that caused the victim's agility to become the negative counterpart, if they weren't negative already. That meant that Weaboo Jones now had a -5 charisma and a -4 dexterity, and seemingly no real way of getting rid of it. However, that was the least of their worries. Upon the first sexual act, a curse awakened within Archibor, and he transformed into a werewolf. Apparently while traveling to the material plane, Archibor awoke 2 dormant diseases within himself. However, they were both latent and didn't cause any problems for him at first. The fantasy aids were completely eradicated once he took his werewolf form, which was the second disease that would only awaken once Archibor's purity was gone. This was going to suck for me, since it was established that werewolves were hated in this world, which meant I was going to be a target for the rest of the game. However, the golden nugget within this entire situation was that Jones was no longer wearing armor, and he had 2 heavily negative stats, and a freshly turned werewolf standing right in front of them. The DM took over my character, and the rest of the group got to sit back and watch as Jones attempted to fend off Archibor as a werewolf. With no weapons or armor, and a werebeast standing between them, Jones was starting to realize just how much he had screwed up, as he tried to fight back. Every time he attempted to use his dice reroll ability, the DM said that it felt as if some otherworldly being was suppressing his ability, causing most of his rolls to fail the necessary AC, leading to him constantly missing, and Arkabor slowly whittling down his health until he was finally dead. Arkabor then consumed them, leaving no body behind, and we eventually continued the game, after the DM took Jones out and spoke to him in private. The DM had kicked Weaboo Jones out of the game, and we then had a great 9 or 10 sessions after that. However, we had to stop for the finals coming up for our high school, and us needing to focus. I'm not too sure what happened to him now. However, I know that Jones had engraved the word cheater on his arm after cheating on his girlfriend, if that gives any idea of his depravity and psychotic behavior. Hopefully y'all enjoyed, because I sure the hell didn't when this happened. However, I do believe that this should be on the subreddit, as all of us should be told the tale of Weaboo Jones. And remember, don't be a Jones. Well guys, at least the DM actually did something here, albeit it was probably not in the best manner, or soon enough. But at least there was something done by the DM, and there seemed to be a relatively happy ending to this one. But in any case guys, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed. And if you have any stories that you would like me to narrate, let me know. Or if you want to chat and hang out with other people, I have a Discord link in the description.